2020 will be remembered as a time of profound struggle and upheaval. This year has changed us all forever. We're living through a pivotal time in history, so what we do next matters and will set the course for years to come. Over 250,000 Americans have lost their lives to COVID-19 since January. Racial disparities have reached a tipping point, with Black Americans 3 times more likely to die from the virus than white Americans. After the grievous deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and too many Black people at the hands of police, Black Lives Matter protests launched the largest movement in U.S. history. The words, "I can't breathe" and "say her name" continue to motivate us to fight for change. The Jewish community has not been spared from the chaos. Many Jewish organizations slashed jobs at schools, synagogues, camps, and JCCs. Anti-Semitic hate speech increased at a rate so alarming that it became concern of the United Nations. Our nation is broken, divided, and suffering. However, it is often the darkest times that bring out the brightest in humanity. We were made for times like these, and we can build a better future for all. In the midst of the pandemic, JCPA jumped into action. We defended voting rights, fair election, and democratic principles. We worked towards criminal justice reform, defended immigration rights, and secured critical funding for Jewish communal institutions. We spoke out against anti-Semitism, anti-Black racism, anti-Asian racism, xenophobia, and growing hate online. JCPA mobilized our grassroots network to develop strategies, education, and toolkits. We launched advocacy campaigns that mobilized thousands of people around the country to work with elected officials, as well as people from other backgrounds at their city councils, state houses, and Congress. We worked hand in hand with our National Jewish Agency members and our partners from diverse faiths and racial backgrounds. We are proud that the Jewish community and the JCPA have been at the forefront of these issues since the beginning. One of our most effective strategies that we loved sharing with you were our more than 35 webinars on major issues exacerbated during COVID-19. They lifted up the voices of those impacted and the experts that led us in responding to crisis concerns. JCPA was made for times like these.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on Jewish values and civic engagement.
Medical professionals have documented the lack of access to basic health services and exposure to new health risks inside immigration detention centers for more than a decade. Right now, there are about 45,000 people who are detained in these settings across the US, and COVID-19, like outbreaks before it, so just last year we had outbreaks of mumps, measles, flu, enters into whatever detention settings exist. I've seen 60 to 80 people using the same water fountain.
And it was a hashtag, not an organization, a hashtag concept that a Black life matter in this society. And we need to value that life like we would value a Jewish life or any life.
I want to welcome you all today to this EMI JCPA COVID-19 Emergency Town Hall meeting. So my name is Reverend John Vaughn. I am the executive pastor at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, but also serve as one of the co-chairs of the Multi-Faith Initiative to End Mass Incarceration.
And you might ask, why are we involved in criminal justice? And I think it stems from a couple of rounds. One is Jewish traditions are about how every human being has inherent human dignity and worth, about how we should treat each other the way we treat ourselves, want to be treated ourselves, and about how our ability to make a difference in the world is critical.
Thank you so much for making the time for this important conversation, and also special thanks for the JCPA. We see that a lot of departments are literally responding with solitary confinement. You know, Maryland is putting kids in solitary confinement, Florida, Texas, New York. You know, you name it, 9 times out of 10, the response has been solitary confinement. And we can talk about the differences between, medical isolation and how punitive solitary confinement is, and how it cannot be used as a containment strategy to fight COVID-19.
Even though there were movements underway all across the country, and I've been going to 20, 25 cities a year the last few years, working with these different groups, they're trying to shift resources from criminalization to community development. It's really that simple. And this is a movement that's been led by people who have experienced profound lack of safety. This is a community safety movement, led by people for whom the police have not been an adequate source of safety.
The JCRCs have a critical role in holding community relations in this country. And for so long, the JCRCs have understood their work as Black and Jewish, as us and them, and have, despite good intentions, reinforced some of the systems that are now important for us to dismantle, interrogate, and restructure. And so the JCRCs have a very, very important role in ensuring that Black Lives Matter.
We're in the community. We're experiencing disparity. And yet in the context of our responsiveness, it was a real haul to see our Jewish institutions focus on how are those disparities playing out directly in our community, and where are we accountable to invest in JOC communities to make sure they don't come to harm in this moment.